In this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of March 31st. DC continues to top the charts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're taking a look at Go Collect's hottest comics for the week of March 31st. Now, for those who don't know, Go Collect puts out a weekly article that analyzes the hottest selling comic books based on movement and eBay sales data. So it's always really fun to look at this with you guys and analyze the books week to week and see what the market is trending on. But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content, love interacting with you guys, help support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. And as you can see, I am back home. I am finally back in California from my work trip to Vancouver, and it feels great to be back. And as you can see, we got some new wall stuff here. I got my Strange Tales that I picked up, and I got my Tales to Astonish Porcupine right there. So great to be back, great to have new things on the wall, and yeah, that means that we can make more great content with you guys here today. So let's get into it here. And of course, this is an article written by Matt Tuck, great contributor to Go Collect. He always puts out this weekly article, and I will put a link in the description if you guys want to do further reading. But let's get into it now and take a look at what the hottest books are for the week of March 31st. All right, so I always like to start at the bottom here, and it's a really interesting list because this is finally a week where at least last week we had that sort of DC was topping the charts, whereas previous weeks it was always Marvel comic books that were the most popular. But this week we're starting to see a lot of books that are not actually in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or tied to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's because there's been so much excitement around the Snyder Cut and also the Suicide Squad trailer which had come out recently. So we're going to see a couple of those books here. But as we start here on the bottom, we do have a Marvel book, and that is actually going to be Amazing Spider-Man number 55, variant edition, second print, up 915 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, you guys know what this is. This is the Patrick Gleason Spider-Man cover art that has gone and absolutely exploded onto the market. And it's really funny because I feel like every week we've featured one of the different covers of this particular book, whether it was the red cover or if it was the first print cover, and now we have the second print variant cover, and this is the one now that the market is chasing after. It feels like this particular book is like the Pokemon of Marvel comic books. Like everybody wants to capture every single cover. I have to imagine that the sales from this, at least from the distribution standpoint, has been tremendous for Marvel Comics, and for that reason, we all know that we're getting that third printing with the blue, I believe it is, and maybe there's going to be a fourth printing, etc. So I feel like this is going to be a comic book that we're going to continue to see on these lists. But for now, it is Amazing Spider-Man 55, second print variant white cover edition. And, what do you got to say about it? I mean, it's just a tremendous piece of artwork that everybody wants to get their hands on. There's no necessarily story specific reasons that people want this book, other than the fact that people love their covers, and this one presents very nicely if you have all the other ones to go alongside of it. So as we dig into the numbers here, you will see that this book here at the 9.8 selling for $230 here in March, and then at 9.6s and 4s, you're seeing that 190, 140 range. But when I went onto eBay looking for this book just to see what some of the numbers were, I was seeing this book selling around that $140 mark or so. So definitely not a cheap book to come by. I don't know what the ratio was for this particular book, but definitely commanding pretty high prices on eBay. But yeah, that's the fifth pick here. So let's go on to the number 4th here. And this one's a really interesting one. This is Youngblood, number 2, up 937 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, you guys remember this book. This is from that early 90s Image run where all those creators like Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane went on to create a whole new universe of characters within this sort of Image indie label. And one of the ones, or the teams that they created, was this team called Youngbloods. And so they would go on to be, this would be created by Rob Liefeld, and they would sort of be like kind of a superhero team. I don't know if they were specifically trying to be like the Avengers equivalent, but regardless, they were a team. And one of the things that Matt points out in the article is that there was talk that right here, you can see at the bottom here, a prophet cometh. Well, this particular book, number 2, is the first appearance of a character known as Prophet. And I guess Prophet had a little bit of a cult following in this sort of like Image Comics universe. Let me know in the comments if you guys actually are like fans of Prophet, because I personally, admittedly, don't know too much about him other than the fact that he was, created in this particular comic book. But there's been a lot of talk that Prophet is maybe going to get some kind of live action movie. And there's been murmurs about that. So I feel like this is sort of, the market being the market and speculating on what kind of properties and film adaptations are we going to see. And overall, this is really interesting to me because, when we look back to those early 90s days with Image, and they created all these characters like Pit and Shadowhawk and Spawn, etc., like, you got to wonder if Todd McFarlane is going to be doing a Spawn movie. And let's say that Spawn movie is really successful. Will that open the doors to Image and that Spawn universe actually being created? Will the movie business start to see it as like, here's an opportunity to create our own sort of Image cinematic universe and give these characters sort of the just due that they kind of deserved, at least back in the day? And could you imagine that if all of a sudden, in pop culture, we had this sort of like Image Spawn cinematic universe, and we see all of these like Image characters from the early 90s making their way onto the screen, and then all of a sudden like these books become like super, super hot? I mean, could you imagine if that was the case? Well, I have to imagine that might be the vision for, the likes of the Todd McFarlanes and Images and things like that. So regardless, at least for right now, Youngblood #2, first appearance of Prophet, is one of the hottest comics of the week. And you can see here, 9.8 selling for $80. So, not tremendously high, but considering that this was probably by all accounts a dollar bin book for many, many, many years, the market is starting to want to get their hands on it. So really, really interesting. Youngblood #2, early Image nostalgia. All right, let's move on now to the third book here. And the third book is actually Wolverine #8, up 939 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is just the classic John Buscema cover featuring Patch, or Wolverine, known as Patch, and Hulk, or known as Mr. Fix-It Hulk. And this is just one of those classic covers from the early or late 80s, with the classic Wolverine solo series run that just has one of those covers that everybody wants to get their hands on this. And one of the reasons I think that this particular cover might have heated up recently is because we know that we have Falcon and Winter Soldier going on, and there was an allusion to the fact that they would be showing up in Madripoor. So maybe the speculation was swirling, and everybody was talking about, well, who spent a lot of time in Madripoor? Well, it was always, from this particular run, Wolverine in the Patch character, and who was the bouncer that Wolverine came across in Madripoor, and that was Mr. Fix-It Hulk. So maybe there was people who wanted to sort of get their hands on this book, in the wake of the excitement of Falcon and Winter Soldier, knowing that we were going to get an episode that featured Madripoor, and for that reason, this book totally jumped off. And a little sidebar for me, this book has a very, very special place in my heart because, I'm not somebody who owns a lot of runs, but I do have a Wolverine, this particular Wolverine run, 1 through 75. And #8, that was my goal. I wanted to do 1 through 75. And this particular issue, #8, was the very last Wolverine issue that I got in order to complete my run. So this one, on top of the fact that it's such an amazing cover, definitely has a little special place in my heart for having completed my run. And as we dig into the numbers here, we'll see a 9.8 selling here in March for $210. So pretty, pretty high dollar amount for, kind of just a random book that has a great cover on it. And 9.6 is 90 here, but on the low end, you're not going to see too many CGC numbers. But when you do go onto eBay and look for this book, this is something that I usually see being sold around that $25, $30, $35 mark, depending on the grade. But Wolverine #8, up 939 spots, is the third hottest comic of the week. All right, let's move on now here to the second hottest comic of the week, and this is going to be Superman #4, up 939 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the character known as Bloodsport that was recently shown as being played by Idris Elba in the Suicide Squad. So this particular book right here is, I guess, Bloodsport's first appearance. And, I don't know if you guys were out there and you guys happen to see, but I'm sure you did, James Gunn's version of Suicide Squad. The trailer recently dropped for it, and instantly all of the books that related to Suicide Squad instantly got super hot. And I guess this particular book is one of those ones that got especially hot. And that, of course, is the first appearance of Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport. I'm not someone who is particularly versed in the DC universe. I've said this a few times, and I don't know too much about Bloodsport. But what I do know is that it looks like James Gunn has a pretty good grasp on what he wants to do with the Suicide Squad. And with all the success of the Snyder Cut, there's just been overall a lot of excitement for the DC universe. So I feel like with the filmmakers that that have their hands on the DC properties now, it looks like they're in good hands, generally speaking. And so for that reason, Bloodsport seems like a character that the community would want to get their hands on and spec on. And it seems like, you know, if James Gunn is attached to Suicide Squad, it doesn't feel like this is going to be a one-off movie of any sort of or any kind. It feels like James Gunn's going to want to do more Suicide Squad. So it feels like if we do get multiple versions of these team movies, Bloodsport is definitely going to play a role because, hey, Idris Elba, one of the premier actors in Hollywood right now. So definitely a cool character to spec on. And as we dig into the numbers here, you'll see the 9.8 selling for $170 here in March. And again, not too many CGC numbers on the low end, but generally speaking, when I look on this in eBay, you know, it's definitely up and down, but we're seeing that sort of $40, $50, $60 mark. So that is Superman number 4 up 939 spots. And let's go on now to the hottest comic of the week of March 31st, and that is actually going to be Suicide Squad number 1, up 968 spots. And what is the significance of this? Well, you guessed it. This is the first issue of the Suicide Squad, and I suppose you guys would, you know, understand for reasons I previously stated with the Bloodsport appearance. The reason this particular issue seems to be hot right now is because, again, we got the recent trailer for James Gunn's Suicide Squad. So this is not necessarily, I don't believe, the first appearance of the team itself, but this is the first sort of seeing their name in the title and the first issue of their particular run. And so it makes sense that, you know, with the excitement around this new team, we're going to see people chasing after their key books. And Suicide Squad number 1, to me, seems like a key as good as any other as it relates to the Suicide Squad team. And again, here, first issue, very first titled series, first appearance of Briscoe, first appearance of Jihad, first appearance of Raven, and first appearance of Jakuli. So I don't necessarily know if we have those particular characters in James Gunn's version of the movie. Let me know in the comments if we do. But yes, this is obviously a very, very cool book that has first appearances of those particular characters, and this is the first solo series of the team. And if we look into the numbers here, you'll see the 9.8 selling for the $180 mark, 9.6 at 85, and down here you're not going to see the CGC numbers, but kind of like the Bloodsport one, I see this book going around that, you know, $30, $35, $40, $45 mark, depending on the grade. But that is the hottest comic for the week, Suicide Squad number 1, up 968 spots. Well, that is all I have for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys own any of these books? I think it's really, really cool that, you know, we got Wolverine number 8 on this one. That's just something that, like, I have a little emotional attachment to. I've absolutely loved that cover for a long time. And it would be really, really cool if we saw, you know, Mr. Fix-It in Madripoor or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That would be a really, really awesome appearance. But let me know about the other books that you guys see here. Do you guys, you know, have you been specking on like the Suicide Squad stuff? Did you like James Gunn's Suicide Squad trailer? Also, let me know what you guys think of that Patrick Gleason thing, because it feels like, you know, every week we're seeing, you know, a new version of that book. Are you guys someone out there that collects those particular covers? Like, are you going to get this, you know, second printing variant? Are you looking to get the third printing with a blue cover? If they did a fourth printing with like a green cover, would you guys get that one? Let me know in the comments. Drop me a like, comment, or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.